I don't.
Amazing. Yeah, you
All
guys get
right.
thumbs up and I'll share and begin whenever you want me to.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna let you, so we don't really have any faces on here today. I come on camera if you can. But I'm Heather Roxburgh with Real Broker and Be Epic Marketing, and I'm here with my business partner, Kat. We have Abbey Chaplain here today to talk about branding, and I'm gonna let you introduce yourself, go over your background. I will tell you guys all, because you know her father very well, Greg Chaplain, who's a dear friend of mine, and we've had him on the webinar as well. But she's just as amazing as her dad is, just in a different creative way. So, Abbey, go ahead and tell everybody about you, your background, why you got, I mean, I guess I would love to even know why you
Yeah.
got into branding and what you do. So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Heather. Such a kind introduction. Like Heather said, my name is Abbey Chaplain. And like she said, you guys may have met my dad before in these guest speaking events as well. He's a realtor that connected me with Heather and a whole world of amazing people. But I am not in real estate. I am actually a brand strategist, a brand designer, a web designer. I have lots of different creative titles, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate to if you're your own business owner. But anyways, I stumbled into the world of brand and web design when I was in college. So I graduated from college in 2021, so a little bit post-pandemic, but really my business was born in the pandemic, like many others. But basically, I was studying creative advertising at the time that we were sent home in the pandemic. I had lots of friends graduating from college at the time who really needed support from somebody who knew design, knew marketing, and could help them with things like resumes and their portfolio websites. Time evolved. I just continued to hone my skills and learn more about brand strategy. And now I've been doing this ever since leaving college, and it's just my favorite job in the world. I work with amazing people like Heather. You can see why I love why I do what I do. I just get to work with so many amazing people. So that's a little bit about my background. I'll share my screen as well and kind of get started with everything and hopefully hit everything well. I'll say right now, I will make sure to give this presentation to Heather and the team as well as Kat, just so you guys can totally come back to this and look through things. If I go over anything too quickly, I have some action steps. I'm getting ahead of myself, but just know that this will be available for you. So don't stress out if it goes a little bit quick. But here again is a little introduction of myself. So like I said, my name is Abbey Chaplain, a brand strategist, brand designer. And really what I'm here to do today is kind of bridge the gap between what branding is, what our understanding of branding is, and just kind of helping us deepen that understanding to then bring more brand strategy into our brands, making them more memorable. So really the 4 pillars of a memorable brand. So like I said, what to expect in this, feel free to take notes with pen and paper. I assume you guys already do that. But like I said, this presentation will be available with Heather afterwards. If you have questions along the way, I'd love for you to note them down or send them in the chat, and I'll make sure to circle back at the end of my presentation and we'll talk then, do a little Q&A, all that kind of stuff. So in this presentation, we're not only going to discuss the concepts that have left my clients feeling more aligned and more magnetic than ever before, although that's great, but we're also going to chat actionable next steps to integrate these lessons into your own brand. So there's going to be both of that, the concept and then the action step. So let's begin with the basics. What the heck is a brand? Actually, I'm going to move something on my screen really quickly. Okay, what is a brand? We hear this word all the time. We hear things like branding, brand strategy, brand design, a personal brand. There's a million terms that we hear all the time, and it can be so confusing, especially when you're like, what the heck is a brand? So a very common definition, and probably something that maybe you believe right now, is that a brand is the name, logo, design, and slogan associated with a product or a service to distinguish it from competitors within an industry. And while that is all fine and dandy, that's actually not the way I want you to think about branding. Instead, I want to go a little bit deeper. And so really in today's world, I think that branding is really defined as the emotional and psychological relationship between a business and its audience, built upon a unique story, identity, and a promise that fosters connection and loyalty. So I know there's a lot of aspects between that, but really this deeper perspective is going beyond just differentiating you, making you stand out, making you different with your logo. Instead, it's focusing deeper on that emotional and psychological relationship. And there's a lot more that goes into that than just putting a pretty logo on something. As Jeff Bezos likes to say, your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I think that's a great way to think about it. With this terms of branding and stuff, I also want to distinguish between your business and your brand, because a lot of times those can be used interchangeably. And so when I say brand, this is kind of what I'm meaning even more. So a business, as we all know, is the tangible entity of commerce, where revenue flows in exchange for expertise and final results. Business is your industry, your finances, your niche, your operations, your big picture goals, and the strategy that's going to lead you there. On the other hand, a brand is the intangible essence that gives a business its identity and personality. It's not just a name or a logo, it's the reputation and the emotional connections that customers have with a company. Brands are the storytellers, conveying the business's values and mission to foster trust, desire, and action. So in short, your business is the structure and your brand is the passion. Your business is the logistics and your brand is the story. Your business is the what and your brand is the why and the how. So that's just a little bit more helpful of what I mean when I'm saying brand or business or what the heck that means. So from here, we can consider this like as a little exercise. If Lululemon was to launch a hotel chain, we could probably all easily envision what that would be like. You can imagine like what the lobby would feel like and what the staff would wear and what the rooms would be like and the events that would happen there. You can probably picture it in your mind like right now. But if Hilton was to launch a clothing line, envisioning what that would be is a lot more challenging. And so I would actually argue, oh, sorry about that. I would actually argue that Lululemon, is a brand with products, whereas Hilton is really a product, a hotel, with a logo. There's not a brand story that they're bringing us into. We can't imagine what it would be like in any other context. And of course, this is just one example, but I think it's a helpful way to look at it. Next, what makes a brand memorable? A memorable brand is the intentional balance of vision, values, voice, and visuals. A lot of alliteration, a lot of V's. Don't worry, we're going to break down every single one, but really this is the core of this entire talk, which is, again, a memorable brand is the intentional balance of vision, values, voice, and visuals. So let's look at these a little bit closer because I'm a big believer of the order of this and how it just continually gets deeper and deeper. So we start with the vision, which is where we're going. Again, we're going to go deeper into each of these, but each informs the other. The vision of where we're going, which will inform our values. Why the heck does it even matter? This informs our voice, which is, of course, how it feels and sounds, which then informs our visuals, which is how it looks, which is the last step of the process. But again, we'll get there. Let me make this go away. There we go. So pillar number one is our vision. Your vision is the North Star of your entire business. It's the goal that you're striving towards. It's the shared mission that you embark on with both your team and your audience. In fact, the most impactful visions are those that reflect your own ambitions while also rallying care and support from those around you. Creating a community united in purpose. It's the outline of the ideal world that you wish to be a part of. So once again, your vision is the North Star. It's where we're going. A great example is Elon Musk. So a vision to see life on Mars. Love him or hate him, doesn't really matter. Elon Musk is a standout example of someone driven by a very clear vision. For example, to see life on Mars. His vision is the cornerstone of his messaging, igniting common interests and compelling his target audience, which are the investors, NASA, engineers, the people that he needs to make this happen. He's compelling this, they're igniting their interest by that vision, to buy into the vision, which is, of course, to fund his projects. And he's doing it. Will he achieve it? Time will tell. Yet the power of his vision is undeniable, and it's drawing in the right people. And that is a very powerful thing. So keep in mind from that example that a vision is magnetic. And just like a magnet, your vision attracts just as much as it repels. So that's a really important thing to note. If you want to have a magnetic brand, you need to be comfortable repelling people because we want to attract the right people and we want to repel the people that aren't quite aligned. It doesn't have to be polarizing, but it should be poignant. You either believe in the vision or you don't. You're either into it or you're not. Vision ignites care, it invites community, and it initiates loyalty. So our action step, this is what I'm talking about. This is great if you want to take notes, but again, you can always come back to this and do your own little reflections at the end. But step one of this process is to define that vision. So imagine your dream life and the ideal world that you want to be a part of. I think it's so funny. A lot of us as business owners aren't even asking ourselves like what this dream life is that we imagine. We think of results, we think of monetary goals, but we're not really getting the whole vision. So what's the bigger story that your brand is contributing to? What's the legacy that you want to leave? Remember, your vision should not be really related to your industry at all. Think of Elon on Mars. That has nothing to do really with his industries. And at this stage, there's no pressure to figure out the how. We're focusing on the what and the why. This exercise is about setting a clear, ambitious North Star that will guide every decision that we make. And like I said, it's informing everything that we're building about your brand from here. So I also want to give an example of kind of what I define as a good vision and maybe a better vision. So not even bad and good, but more of like, it can be better. So first I have a vision to sell 50 million worth of real estate this year. That's a great goal, but it's not really a vision. A better vision would be, I have a vision to for my local community to be a thriving hub of culture and commerce. That vision has nothing to do with industry, has nothing to do with your monetary goals, which are amazing to have. Instead, it's this vision that you can invite people into. You can still make your amazing 50 million worth of real estate or whatever your goal is doing that same thing, but it goes much deeper than just one industry. So to recap, your vision is the overarching purpose that drives your endeavors and attracts a like-minded community. So that was pillar 1, and now we're going to lean into pillar number 2, which are your values. So your values are your compass. If your vision is true north, then your values are the thing that will continually point you in the right direction. They are the ethos, the why. As Simon Sinek once said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. Values are what root our vision in reality. They provide the moral framework, the guiding principles that shape our every action. An amazing example is someone named Rick Rubin. Now, if you're not familiar with who this is, I highly recommend it. He's a very cool person. And he's a legendary music producer known for his minimalistic approach and deep reverence for artistic integrity. Over the past several decades, Rubin's values have remained remarkably consistent. Whether you're tuning in to an interview from 5 days ago or 20 years ago, you'll find his message remains unchanged. He continues to preach dedication to the creative process, the pursuit of quality over quantity, knowing oneself as an artist, and many more things. Rubin's commitment to these values has not only shaped his career, the legacy he holds as one of the most influential producers of our time. And this is him with Mick Jagger, a pretty cool photo. So please notice, I actually haven't talked about any real labels. I mean, I mentioned Lululemon and Hilton in a quick little example, but we're not really diving into any brands yet. You may have expected to see the breakdown of Nike's iconic swoosh or a masterclass in creating a slogan. Instead, we've been looking at people because brands exist among people. Your brand doesn't live on your business card, it's in you. Learning to be your brand spokesperson is much more important and much harder than simply having a nice logo, although a nice logo is nice to have as well. So our action step for our values are to, of course, define your values. So for this, I'd love for you to take some time reflecting on your guiding principles and considering what truly matters to you. This is a part that I love because many of us, whether you're an agent or you're in real estate, you're not, whatever, you are probably the main character of your business. Maybe you have a team, maybe you don't, I don't know what you do, but you probably are the main character. And therefore, your brand's values should probably reflect who you are as a person. So if you feel stuck here, really reflect on what really do you value in life? What guides you as a person and a human living this life? Also, consider this a belief system in the making, because this really is this shared perspective that you're inviting your ideal audience into. I also want to challenge you to be really specific. For example, don't tell me that you value greatness. Tell me how you define greatness, because greatness is really vague and I love it. But I want you to be really specific of what does that mean for your brand. So here's some examples down here. We have integrity. Instead, maybe you believe integrity beyond profit. Again, doesn't have to be that, but whatever it feels like for you. For excellence, instead, we could do something like excellence is compassion in action. Or for greatness, greatness lies in generosity. I want you to define and kind of give a belief around the value itself. To recap, your values are the belief system that defines your brand and creates your legacy. All right, we're getting there. So now we have pillar number 3, which is your voice. And this is where we start to see more of the quote unquote brand related things come into play. We've been focusing on a lot of strategy.
Yeah, I think so. Am I frozen?
You're not,
Okay.
you're not, and I'm not, but
Frozen.
Abbey is. What do you do when someone's frozen?
I was going to send her a message.
Yeah, Alyssa just sent one, Abbey, you're frozen. So hopefully she sees it. was thinking
Can you
maybe.
give her a call?
I don't have her phone number, do you?
Oh,
Nope.
we just lost her. She'll pop back on. Let's see.
Well, while we're waiting for her, let's chat about branding on our own. I'd love to hear how often, or when was the last time the people on this call looked at their logo and did a refresh? Just curious. Just chime in.
I'll chime in and I'll just say that everybody every couple of years should be looking at it. I mean, every few years at least. In my 18 years, I've rebranded 4 times. So it's crazy how just technology changes, which makes it so much like you can make so many cool things these days. So I've done 4. I'm gonna call in someone. Ed, you ever rebranded?
Yeah, we're in Massachusetts, so we were the MA home team, and everybody would call us Mahome or Mahomie. And
Mahomie.
so we're like, no, that's not really catching on. So we were leaving to create our own brokerage, and I said, okay, now's a good time for our team to come up with a non-Ed Daniels name. And the
Yep.
brand that came up with was Dorian, my wife's idea of Vesta, who is the Roman goddess of home and hearth. So it still needs a little bit of explanation for people who don't know what Vesta is, but that was the name that we rebranded to as a brokerage, and we are the Vesta Real Estate Group. So I guess we did do a rebrand pretty majorly after 15 years of being
Mahomie.
the Mahomie team.
The Mahomie team.
But I do have mahome.com. If it was just a little S on there, I'd be able to score myself a whole bunch of money off of that URL with Patrick.
I was gonna say, I mean, maybe play off of the whole
I
Patrick
thought he could still
Mahomes.
call me without the S, but he hasn't yet.
The Mahomes are like the hot social media couple right now, thanks to Taylor Swift. So
I know.
being
They should be
besties
calling.
with
I don't
them.
understand. I've been paying my $8 a year to keep that brand going.
That's amazing. Susie, you've had your brand for as long as I've known you.
Yeah,
Might be time for a refresh.
that's probably true. The Pentagraph team, but it's got mountains and it's got the Remax balloon, and so I kind of like it. What if you like your brand? No, I did get new headshots though. And I
Good.
realized those were like 5 years old. So I'm embarrassed to say I waited 5 years, but I just got a bunch of new headshots thanks to you, Heather.
I think you got to do it every few years. It's smart.
I know. I promise from now on I will. So,
Yeah.
5 years
I
is
mean,
fresh for the real estate business.
huh?
5 years is fresh in the real estate business.
It is
You,
absolutely
yeah.
fresh. It is
I
Well,
fresh.
mean,
I need
I feel like you should be taking photos. You should do at least 1 photo shoot a year minimum,
I
like
agree.
Yeah.
to keep things fresh. Even if it's just, okay, she's back. To go
Sorry.
back to her point about like, there's a difference between a logo and color palette and the message and the tone and the personality of your brand. And I think that by doing those photo shoots once a year, you can kind of refresh. You can have a lot of great imagery that can support the tone and the style that you're trying to convey. But I'll let her continue with her presentation. We were just trying to fill the gap while we were waiting for you to come
Thank you.
back.
I'm so sorry, everybody. Of course this happens. The
You
one
can't
time that I needed to
control
not happen.
the internet.
Um,
Yeah.
It's the worst. Well, appreciate your patience. Back to where we were. And yes, I'm so excited to circle back to any questions that we have. So wherever I was cut off, did you guys see me introduce your voice? I just want to make sure that nope, we didn't. Okay, let's go back to voice. Actually, did we feel like we recapped values okay? Just want to make sure everyone feels okay about that. Obviously, we can go back as well. Thanks, everyone. One more time, we'll just recap it while we're here. So again, your values are the belief system that defines your brand and creates your legacy. So from here is where we're starting to get a little bit more visceral, a little bit more of that tangible stuff. So lots.
Oh no, is our internet going out again?
Your voice, what you say and how you say it. It's the common language spoken between you and your audience. It's your positioning communicated. Voice is the intersection of what you want to say and what your audience needs to hear. In short, it's your messaging. So a really useful tool that we use in marketing and branding in lots of different ways, sorry, look at that, are brand archetypes. So this is something that everybody can learn about. You guys don't have to be brand strategists to learn about this as well. Introduced by Carl Jung in the early 20th century, brand archetypes are widely used by marketing experts and branding strategists. Like I said, these archetypes tap into universal themes that resonate with people's core emotions and desires, making them powerful tools for branding. So if you look at the illustration down here in this core 4 quadrants are basically core desires or core motivations of your audience. Really, this is rooted in who your target audience is, what they actually want and need from you, and therefore how we can present your brand to be the obvious no-brainer perfect choice for what they need. So you can see a couple examples with logos and brands that you know very well. We have Apple as the magician who is focusing on power and for people that really want to leave legacy. So there's a lot of deep dives we can go into this. I'm going to mention a little bit later a book that I highly recommend if you want to learn more about it. But obviously this can be an amazing resource of just learning a little bit about your audience, what they need to hear from you, and how you can present your message in a way that's going to resonate with them. So our action step for this is to refine your messaging, of course. So really for this, I recommend sitting with your brand messaging, of course, and reflecting on these 2 essential questions. What do I need to say? And what does my audience need to hear? So you can begin by jotting down the key messages that you believe define your brand. Then you can shift your perspective to that of your audience. Consider their desires, their fears, their dreams. Next, reflect on what kind of people your ideal audience truly is. Do they resonate with powerful, aspirational language, or are they more comfortable with someone who feels friendly and approachable? These are the pieces that begin to shape your voice. So another example of what I would do rather than another alternative, instead of saying, I sell houses, we would say, I help you find your next home. That's a great example of tapping into their desire. They don't care about you selling houses. They want a home, and that's, you know, the time of life that they're in, the chapter that they need a guide in that. So touching on that messaging is really important. So to recap, your voice is the unique communication of your brand, articulating your beliefs in a way that resonates with your audience. So again, we've just gotten to the 4th pillar, which I'm so excited. This is what we all think of when we think of branding, and we'll dive deeper into that. But I hope it's getting clear of how each of these things, again, informs the other. We started with that vision, we moved into values, we moved into voice, and they're all building upon each other till we finally get to the amazing visuals. So your visuals are the aesthetic language of your brand, what most of us associate with the word branding. But of course, I gave you a new definition of how we should think about branding. But visuals go beyond mere logos, representing your brand in a way that is instantly recognizable. Ranging from colors to font selections, layout design, photo direction, and beyond, these elements work in tandem to convey your brand strategy, encapsulating your vision, values, and voice. So we have a super important part, which is, of course, the role of color in branding. This is probably something we all have already given thought to about our brands already, because undeniably, one of the most significant components of a brand's visuals is color. Much like brand archetypes, colors evoke specific emotions that can be leveraged in our branding efforts. For example, red, orange, and yellow are known to stimulate hunger, which explains why your favorite fast food restaurants often use these colors. Green and earthy tones evoke a sense of nature and approachability. Pinks and purples often convey femininity, softness, and care. When crafting your brand's color palette, consider the psychological impact each choice may have and how it aligns with your brand's messaging. So a little pro tip is to select 3 neutral tones. I would always recommend a white, a black, and a nice beige, and then maybe 1 to 2 accent colors that align with your brand's personality. I'm a big believer that less is more. Say less, but say it better. And so don't go crazy with color, keep it minimal. And again, just go back to what am I trying to say and who am I trying to be for my audience? Next, we have the roles of fonts or typography in branding. So this is a whole other can of worms, of course, and we can talk more about it here in a minute, but typography is another foundational element in your branding toolkit. They not only convey personality, but more importantly, they must readily convey information. Just like with color, it's essential to limit yourself to a few intentional choices and maintain consistency throughout your brand. Be mindful of the personality associated with the font, as well as hierarchy and readability. My pro tip for this, of course, is to choose one font for your main titles, one for smaller headings, and one font for your paragraphs. That's like the easiest way you could do it, set up your brand to succeed really well. And of course, at the end of the day, for color and for font, consistency is key. We want to have the same brand showing up everywhere that your brand shows up. And then I like this visual on the left. If you've looked at it already, it kind of shows you the importance of hierarchy. And maybe you did read it in the perfect order that it's asking you to. You'll read this first and then this one, and then you'll come back to this. And basically it's explaining exactly where your eye travels when we look at fonts. So this is a great example of something that you can try to emulate in your own brand fonts. If you're not having the help of a designer and an expert, this is a really great starting place. By the way, your brand definitely exists beyond your logo. Logos are awesome, but so while a logo is undoubtedly a great asset in your branding toolkit, it alone can't carry the entire weight of your brand. Instead, focus on gaining clarity around your vision, your voice, and your values. When you have a solid foundation in these areas, you'll be ahead of your competition. Remember, while visuals can always be elevated, it's the strategy behind them that truly sets you apart. So our final action step before we move into just like diving deeper into these things and talking together, the action step for visuals is to, of course, audit your visuals. It's time to turn a critical eye towards your own brand's visual language. Reflect on the strategy that we've discussed so far, and then give your current visuals a thorough review. And you can ask some key questions like, do your colors reflect your brand's values? Because like we talked about, colors evoke emotions and carry meanings. So make sure that your palette aligns with what you are trying to stand for. Do your fonts speak to your audience? The right typography can draw people in and make your message more compelling. And then lastly, are your visuals cohesive across all platforms? Consistency strengthens your brand's identity, making it easily recognizable and reliable in the eyes of your audience. And then of course, an optional step is you can always hire a professional. Remember that you don't have to do this alone. That is always true. You are the expert in your field, so don't feel like you have to become a brand strategist overnight. I'm here to bridge the gap, whether it's refining your brand strategy together or crafting an identity so you can focus on what really matters, which is moving the needle in your business. And I'll give my contact information if anybody wants to talk to me about that. But on the right, you can see a great example of a lot of those things that we just talked about. We're seeing color come into play. We're seeing fonts come into play. This is maybe somebody that you guys know. It's a realtor here in Virginia, who I love and know her very well. And you can just kind of see some of those pieces that they're coming together. We have luxury, we have messaging coming in here, lots of things we could deep dive on. So to recap that, your visuals are the embodiment of your brand, conveying your message at a glance. So our closing thoughts before we chat. At the core of every brand lies intentionality behind vision, values, voice, and visuals. It's this deliberate approach that sets up your business to thrive in the most aligned, magnetic, and memorable way. I definitely want to leave you guys with a couple resources that I highly recommend. First, these are all books that I highly recommend. First, we have The Hero and the Outlaw. This is a book specifically on brand archetypes. So if that was something that kind of piqued your interest and something that you would want to learn more about, especially as it relates to your brand voice and personality and your messaging, highly recommend that. Second, another great thing for really everything, but specifically your values and your messaging as well, is building a story brand. And this taps into storytelling and how it be used in your business. And then third is Start With Why, which is by Simon Sinek. Another great tool. Simon Sinek is a very well-known name in the marketing world. If you've heard of him, it's okay if you haven't, but he had some really great insights on building businesses that really compel people. So how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. And thank you for your time. Obviously, we're going to do questions, so I'll stop sharing my screen and we can just talk. But yes, thank you guys for listening on those 4 pillars of a memorable brand. If you guys have any questions, I'll check the chat in case there were any that were sent. But yeah, I'm open to hearing any questions or comments that you guys might have about those things.
Yeah, we do have one question in here. Someone asked, are there some fonts that are more appealing than others?
That's a great question. So I think appealing obviously could be a very subjective term. I think, yes, absolutely, there are fonts that are more appealing than others, but I think the question there is, who are we appealing to? Do we want, does it just feel good for us to look at? Or really what's more important is, does this appeal to my target audience? So that is where having a really crucial understanding of your audience, their demographic can be helpful. For example, with that real estate brand that I kind of showed a little bit at the end, that is in a luxury area on the water here in Virginia. It's beautiful. beautiful. And they know that their audience mostly gets retirees who are ready to just sit and enjoy the beautiful waterfront for the rest of their lives. So when we created her brand, legibility, clean, professional, mature, feeling fonts, feeling graphics, all of those intentions were in our minds when we were selecting her fonts. On the flip of that, Paige, Heather's daughter, another good example of a brand I've worked on, her market is completely different. She works with people of all different ages doing insurance, people in their early 20s who need to start out, people who are working on life insurance, like literally a whole spectrum. And therefore, her brands didn't have to be as mature. They didn't have to appeal to an older generation like the other brand did. So we kept it way more modern and way more clean. And so, of course, visually, those fonts are completely different, but they appeal for different reasons and to different people. In short, I think that a brand should be legible. And I think that a font should be legible. It should not distract from what you're trying to say. If you're looking at the font and it's hard to read, it's probably not a great choice for your brand. Really trendy fonts that we see on amazing online shops like Creative Marketplace, for example, places like that maybe you'll see on Pinterest or whatever. I always discourage people from choosing fonts there. Honestly, going to somewhere like Google Fonts would be a way better choice. Find something that you think kind of aligns with that professional vibe that you're probably going to create for your brand, and keep it simple over keeping it complicated is what I would say for choosing your brand fonts. So yeah. Any other questions?
I will
Sorry,
just say, I'll say something to that, and Kat probably will agree with me, but like, don't be too girly too in your fonts, because you know, you see a lot of marketing where it's like so feminine, and
Totally.
you know, we all work with both men and women and couples and whatnot, so like, I would be careful with that too.
Totally. Yeah, great point.
Yeah.
I would be curious to hear your thoughts on, because I have my own, but curious your thoughts. I see a lot of real estate agents going for a logo that is like, has some sort of like graphic element, like a key or a house or like something illustrated.
Follow in
Totally.
Is
Denver.
that something that you would recommend? Is that something you would
Exactly
stay
what I
away
would-
from? Like, what are
Yes.
your thoughts about using like clip art or some sort of imagery in your logo?
Yeah, that's a great question. My gut response is to say I would avoid it, not because it's a horrible thing, of course, but we just said, I mean, I can picture so many brands right now that I've seen that do exactly that. And while I don't think the entire purpose of your brand is we have to be different for the sake of being different, I feel like that's kind of a recipe for disaster, and I don't approach brand building that way. However, if you know all of your competitors in your area all have a house in their logo, I wouldn't put a house in your logo. You're just going to blend into the crowd of the people that already exist, that are already there. I also think that what you're touching on is a great point. I don't think we have to be so hyper specific. I think we can trust our audience to understand that Heather Roxburgh Realty is a real estate company, like whatever it is, you know. I want you to give, you know, context. I want you to say realty or real estate, which I'm sure you all already do. But no, I don't think that there needs to be the graphic element. If it's something that you feel really drawn to and you just really love the feel of it, of course, do it. I won't yuck your yum, but I think as a blanket statement, I think avoiding things that are just stereotypical now in your industry is what I would recommend to do. So, yeah, great question.
Not make them too
It is
busy.
a hot take. Sorry, go ahead.
Not make it too busy.
Totally. Yes, simplicity is key.
Hannah
That's a
has
whole
a
piece of like sustainability.
Sorry, there was a little delay because
Hannah.
you're kind of cutting out
Yeah.
for a minute. Hannah had a question. She said,
Oh, yes.
she says, does every brand require a tagline? If so, do you have tips on how to create one?
Yeah, great question. This is definitely a very common question. I was talking with my sister who also does real estate marketing, and she gets this question a lot from realtors that she's working with. And really, I think a lot of people, when they say like tagline, they mean like slogan or like a jingle, and like that obviously had a place in marketing. I would say probably more in the like later 1900s and so, and I think it's less important now. So I do not think it's something that is required. I don't think every single brand needs a really catchy slogan that we know it by. I don't think everybody needs their own just do it. However, I do think the messaging of conveying what you do and who you do it for and a little bit of how you do it is super, super key. So I definitely work on taglines. I do work on taglines with all of my clients. And kind of like what I just said, my best tips for creating a tagline is you really want to hit those three things: who you are, or like what you do, who you do it for, and give some context as to who you are. So like I said in that, that little example I gave of a brand I'm currently working on, we made their tagline where luxury real estate meets local expertise. And the reason for that is because a huge value of theirs was, one, this is a family-owned and operated business in the same area for over 50 years. That's a huge thing to be celebrating. And that's something that none of their competitors can say. However, we didn't say celebrating 50 years as their tagline, because that'll only last a year or it's going to continue to evolve and stuff. But that local expertise was a huge thing we knew we wanted to convey in the messaging. Yes, this is a luxury market. These people are luxury buyers. However, what makes our team different is that we are from here. We don't just come here to work and we don't know the waterways and we don't understand the area or whatever. We're locals. We live here. We want to be your neighbor, that kind of thing. So that's what we brought into that tagline. And I think that keeping that in mind, what do you need to convince them? Not convince them, but what do you need to tell them? We do luxury real estate and we're locals. And that's exactly what we keep it that simple. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if everyone was on, I work with a lot of people in the wedding industry, and everyone has a tagline or a slogan in the wedding industry, and they're very redundant and repetitive. Everybody has the same one, kind of. It's always like emotive imagery for the wildly in love and stuff like that. And for people like that who are just making a tagline to check it off the box, there's no intention there. I think once you know what your positioning is going to be, you've reflected on those values, you've reflected on what your audience needs to hear from you. And then if a tagline emerges from there that really connects those two things, I'm all for it. But I don't think you need to force it. I don't think it needs to be something that you check off the list, because if it's not intentional, it's not really going to resonate with anybody. So yeah, any other like specific questions about taglines? Did that kind of give a good intro? I'd love to be as helpful as I can be for that.
So you're saying I don't need to just go on ChatGPT and tell them to write a tagline for me and use that?
Yeah, I would not. I love ChatGPT, but also everybody's doing that now, and they're very ChatGPT sounding these days too. You can kind of tell when people use it and stuff. Yeah, so I would not do that if I were you. Yeah.
So I have a question. I know this answer, but I'm going to let you tell everyone.
Great.
So tell everyone exactly what you do. So if you do full branding packages, you do rebranding packages, what do they include? What are like general price points and whatnot?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. Great question. Yeah, I can talk about my typical projects, the scope, the investment, what that kind of looks like in the experience. So whether it's a rebrand or a new brand, it's honestly like the same exact experience. I tend to work with people who are at least 2 years in the business, which for you guys who have probably way more experience than that probably sounds like nothing. But I like it a lot better than the people that have been around the block for 2 minutes. And the reason for that is that you guys, and even the people who've been around only for 2 years, you have a brand, you have a legacy, you have a reputation, you have the core of a brand. You probably just aren't confident articulating it. So that's where we would work together and kind of go through a deeper, but really these things that we've walked through together. We're going to start with your vision. I literally am going to ask you about what's your dream life? Okay, let's reverse engineer what this brand needs to feel like so you can have the business that you want to have, so that you can have the life that you want to have. So we always start there with that vision, making it really clear. I always point out the gaps if I'm like, this doesn't really make sense. This is very, very like collaborative experience of defining and refining your vision, going deep again into your values. Again, for many of us, we're like the main characters of the brand. Working with our business is working high touch with you. Therefore, your brand needs to feel like you. It needs to care about what you care about. It needs to sound the way that you sound. It needs to carry all of that legacy that you've already been building over the years into the brand and not lose an ounce of it. So we're going to work on that together. Brainstorming. I'll get obviously ideas of aesthetic preferences, things that you like. We talk a lot about brands that you naturally are drawn to and why. Everybody loves to say Apple, and then I'm like, why? And we just like it because they make great products and stuff. But I actually want to hear about the brand of t-shirts that you've been buying for 10 years and why you keep going back to them and like that kind of stuff. We go really deep into who you are as a person and therefore how that carries into your brand in your business and things. And then I dive into the design. So of course, with that stuff, with the brand identity, most of those visuals things that we talked about, I'm going to work on things like your logos and your color palette and your fonts. I hesitate to even like list specific deliverables. And I always say that with my clients too, because I'm a big believer that the process informs us as we go. I would never want to say, oh, you're going to get these 3 things from me, and then we start working together, and then we realize that's not the direction we want to go at all. Instead, you know what our audience really needs, it's this. So anyways, we're always going to hit whatever that you need to do as things evolve in the process. We'll hit them head on. And so yeah, most people walk away with an amazing identity. So that toolkit I keep talking about, the fonts that you're always going to use, the color palette, the logos you'll always use, but also, in my opinion, more importantly, are the brand experience pieces. So for my real estate clients, this typically looks like things like an amazing buyer's guide and a seller's guide that we can easily automate for your clients to get from you. It's on brand. It's your thoughts, it's your experience, it's your wisdom, but it's for them to get. We work on your website if you need it. We work on social media direction if you need it. I work with a lot of amazing teams who have marketing assistants or manager, social media manager, whatever it is. So I am no stranger to working alongside a team and teaching them how to continue the work after the project is done. I find that incredibly helpful. And then, yeah, that's kind of the scope. Depending on what we would do together, I'd say that my clients look to invest somewhere between probably $7,000 to $12,000, depending on what they need. It's very obviously customizable. If you can't tell, I very much tailor my work to where you are in your business, but that's a very abstract overview of kind of what we do together and what I get to do with amazing businesses. Yeah.
You and I can attest, she's phenomenal because she did mine. So
So kind.
you give all that and then some. So thanks for it.
Thank you. Under promise, over deliver. I'm sure we all believe that too. So
I know.
yeah. Great. I'm just
Anybody
checking
else?
to make sure I hit these. Yeah, go ahead.
No, any other questions? I was just looking myself. Anybody have any other questions?
I do. I'm just wondering, so one area that I feel like I personally get stuck with branding is that I believe and I understand that like the story behind the brand is where the magic lies. It's not just the visual representation. It's really like, what is the story that you're pitching, selling? Like, how are you positioning yourself? People connect with people, they connect with stories. So I think it's important for every business owner to sort of map out what their story is and how they're presenting it in their brand to their clients as who they are as a human, as a business, whatever. I feel like I struggle with this because I don't have like a traumatic life event that happened to me or some crazy story that's super unique and interesting. So if you're sort of this like, and maybe that's me just thinking that I'm not interesting, but like, I guess I get stuck on this part where I'm like, what is my story? What is my message? So if you're kind of stuck on that story piece and how you're presenting your story to your clients, do you have any recommendations or ideas on how to sort of work through that and get to the root of presenting yourself in a way that is engaging, connects with your clients, and actually gets to the root of like that message?
Yeah, that's very well said. Everything that you conveyed was very well said, and I agree with everything and totally recognize and agree with that idea of maybe there's not this inciting event that we can continually draw upon for inspiration, and it's where our stories start. And there's so many amazing entrepreneurs I'm sure we can all think of that have like their story of how it started and stuff. But yes, if you don't have a dramatic life event or anything like that, the first thing that comes to mind, and it's kind of cliche, but it's very cliche, spending more time with yourself. I know that sounds funny, but you actually say, you're like, maybe I just don't think that I'm interesting. And I actually think that's a huge part of it, because I think that we all know our story and therefore we're used to it. We all know our strengths and therefore we think that everybody has them. However, I don't believe that's true. I think that we're all incredibly unique and skilled and positioned in different ways and stuff. And so I truly am a big fan of tools. And again, I use them as tools. They're not everything, they're not end all be all, but things like personality tests, like Myers-Briggs. And I know many of you are probably familiar with the heritage profile. I love human design. I love things like that. Again, just as tools to kind of give language towards our natural abilities and skills. I think that's such an amazing thing. When somebody or a tool or a test tells you something that you know is true and you're like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So I would start there because I think that that could open your eyes to a whole piece of your experience that you didn't even realize was so important and also could actually touch people's lives. And so once you kind of like maybe had a little bit more clarity, it doesn't have to be revelations, but just a little bit more like objectively, when I look at myself and my strengths and my experience and what I've done and what I care about, what I naturally gravitate towards, what I naturally want to ramble about, that's kind of what's informed me a lot in my business is what do I just really ramble about when I'm on calls with my clients and then realize like, oh, that's the stuff I really care about. That's what I want to talk about. So that's a great insight as what do you tend to ramble about? And then obviously you guys all have experience with clients over years and or your audience over years that you can start to see, okay, what am I telling everybody that they really need to hear? Like what is this maybe message that I realize that I really do believe it is a core message of mine and I say it a lot and maybe I didn't learn it in a really traumatic way or a notable way at all, but like what are those pieces of your life experience maybe that you find really important? I know this is all still very abstract, but I think that that could be helpful. And then seeing how they need it. And so this kind of relates to that piece of values, obviously, because I'm a big believer that the things you deeply care about, your audience will probably deeply care about as well. Like there should be some overlap. And so it's really in that overlap, I think that's where we can zoom in. And that's where I think we can solve problems really well. I think that's where we can make clients feel really seen and heard and cared for. I think that that's kind of like where the magic happens. Yeah, so that's kind of the first thing I would say for that. And then two-part of that, so that was kind of like digging deeper, goes back to vision as well, which I know is still very abstract, but it's kind of like, okay, with your life experience, exactly how it is, with your story and with kind of where you maybe feel limited of, oh, I don't really have this amazing inspirational something to give. What maybe looking through the lens of your business and maybe not, what is the ideal world I want everybody to see? Maybe it's, I want more moms to be bringing in passive income. I don't know, this is just random, but like whatever that vision is, whatever that like, oh, I actually do care about this, especially the things that you think don't have to do with your business that you're caring about, probably you could connect them somehow. I think those pieces, I just think they're all clues, all the things that we naturally care about. There's someone else that cares about it. So I think that that's really helpful as well. So was that helpful?
It was actually, because I
Great.
feel like I just got some ideas. So like I'm a #1 free spirit for all of us who know the heritage profile. And I think freedom is something that's very important to me. And I think that's also important to my clients, time freedom. You know, so I think I can definitely weave that into my story.
I love that. Yes. Oh my gosh. I think that's an amazing epiphany because I think, yeah, I think that they'll sense how much you care about it and how it's so core for who you are. And the beautiful piece of what we get to do in business is bring the things we care about to other people and care for them in that way. Very similar in my own business. Like I'm somebody who's always been aesthetically drawn, if you will. You know, that's always been a value of mine. I've always been highly organized, just pieces of that slowly informed getting to do what I do. I aesthetically organize people's businesses is honestly kind of what I do in a nutshell. And so, yeah, that was great. I'm glad that you thought of it that way. Great.
Any other questions?
Yes, please. Anything.
So if someone wants to get in touch with you, you'll send us your contact info and we can pass that
Absolutely.
around. And
yeah, let me drop it here in the chat if you guys want to look at that as well. My website, my email, my Instagram. Email is great for me as well. But yeah, those are my apps. If you guys want to connect with me, I really would love to connect with all of you. So please send me an email and I'd love to just chat with you guys. No strings attached. Don't think it has to mean anything. But truly it's the most fun thing for me. Like I said, I ramble about these things anyways. These are the things I love talking about with people. So yes, I'd love to talk about any of these things with you guys. Going back again over the 4 V's, I know so much alliteration and stuff of the vision, the values, the voice, and the visuals. Is there any piece that feels maybe fuzzy on kind of how I explained it, or kind of like Kat was asking specifically in your own business of any questions of how you can implement those lessons?
I don't have any questions. I do like how you took your, I guess, I would have to see your slide, how you have your words to describe your business, and it's not just integrity. You have an explanation to it, which I think is a lot more powerful than just having a word. Because Words
Totally.
can mean different things to different people for different reasons at different times, so.
Perfect. Yeah, I was just saying exactly the same thing, and you hit the nail on the head. Is exactly that. Like, my value of integrity could look completely different than your value of integrity, and they're both amazing, and they both will connect with people in different ways. And so, exactly like you said that. Yeah, just getting granular. Honestly, if you feel stuck on something, just continuing to get even more granular. And this applies to everything. If you feel stuck on your logo, like, just keep staring at it. Why do you feel stuck? Why does it feel off? I don't know. And if you need help, of course I'm here. But yeah, great point.
I will say too, just a bonus like tip for those of you who are working on your brand or are feeling like there's not a lot of consistency with your brand. I know a lot of you use Canva. We use Canva. So they do have like a cool tool where you can set up your brand kit in Canva. And if you haven't done that already, I would recommend doing that. Once you do have your colors, fonts, logo established, there is a section in Canva where you can upload your logo, select your colors, select your fonts, and it'll be the default for all designs that you create. And so I would highly recommend, if you have an assistant or someone helping you with marketing, you go through and set that up, because that's just going to help create a little more consistency with your design once you do have these sort of key pieces in place. So just a little tip there. If you're not the one creating those visuals for your company, someone else is, make sure they do that. Or if you have multiple hands in the pot creating things, but you're leveraging one Canva account to do it, it'll just kind of help create that consistency. So I think that's really important, is if you do commit to colors, logos, fonts, all of that, you want to make sure you're using them across the board to create a sort of aesthetic that transfers across all marketing channels.
Yeah, it's a great tip. That's an awesome feature.
Great.
Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you. Thank you, Abby, for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us today. If anybody needs rebrand, I highly recommend getting a hold of her. She's phenomenal. So
Thank you, Abby. That was amazing.
Thank you
All
guys.
right,
Thanks for
thanks,
being
guys.
here. I appreciate you all.
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks.
guys.
See you all later.
Bye.
Have a good week.